भाई, अरे
दोनों में से चुन ले एक।
बड़ी आराम से बैठ के माँ, बेटे वाली नजर से देख। ये मैंने क्या क्या कर लिया था तुम्हारा? तुमने मेरी जिंदगी रुड़ गई थी, मैं मर रहा था, कुछ भी हो रहा था, तुमने क्या करा था मेरे साथ?
I cannot do this to this family. I need to just go back to America.
Imagine loving someone so deeply that you are willing to risk everything for them. Your family's approval, your reputation, your peace, and even your place in your own home. That is exactly where Sumit finds himself. For years his relationship with Jenny has been surrounded by tension, emotional arguments, and painful choices. Their love story has never been simple. It has always felt like a battle between the heart and tradition. From the moment Sumit first revealed his relationship with Jenny, his family reacted with shock and anger. For them, the relationship broke every expectation they had for their son. They had imagined a very different future for him. A traditional marriage, a partner chosen with family approval, and a life that followed the cultural path they believed in. But Sumit had already made a decision. He chose Jenny. And that choice changed everything. Over time the pressure only grew stronger. Friends talked. Relatives judged. Neighbors whispered. In a society where family reputation matters deeply, Sumit's relationship became a constant source of conflict. His parents could not understand why their son was willing to risk everything for this love. They asked the same question again and again. Why Jenny? But for Sumit the answer was simple. Because he loved her. Jenny had left her life behind in another country to be with him. She trusted him when the situation became messy. She stayed even when the entire world seemed to turn against them. Their relationship survived secrets, heartbreak, and shocking revelations. At one point it even looked like everything might collapse completely. But somehow they always found a way back to each other. That is why this moment feels so important. Because after all the drama, the arguments, and the tears, Sumit still wants one thing he has never truly received. His parents' acceptance. The scene becomes tense as the family gathers together. Everyone knows this conversation is unavoidable. The air feels heavy with emotion before anyone even begins speaking. Jenny sits quietly, unsure of what direction the conversation will take. She has been through similar moments before, but this time something feels different. Sumit looks nervous. His parents look serious. And the silence in the room feels almost louder than words. Finally, the conversation begins. At first Sumit tries to remain calm. He speaks respectfully to his parents. He explains that Jenny makes him happy. He reminds them that years have passed and that his feelings have never changed. But his parents remain firm. Their expressions show the same frustration they have carried since the beginning. They remind him of the sacrifices they made while raising him. They talk about respect and family expectations. They talk about the pressure they feel from their community. Every sentence feels like another wall standing between Sumit and the life he wants. As the discussion continues, the tension grows stronger. Sumit's voice becomes more emotional. He can feel the conversation slipping away from him. He realizes that logic alone will not change their minds. And in that moment something inside him finally breaks. His composure disappears. The calm son who tried to reason with his parents suddenly becomes a desperate man fighting for his love. Sumit begins begging his parents to understand him. His voice shakes as he explains that Jenny is not just someone he cares about. She is his partner, his support system, the person who stood beside him through every storm. He tells them he cannot imagine a future without her. The words come out quickly, almost uncontrollably. Years of frustration pour out in a single emotional moment. He tells his parents that he does not want to choose between them and Jenny. He wants both. He wants his family and the woman he loves to exist in the same life. But right now it feels impossible. Jenny watches quietly, her heart heavy as she sees the man she loves pleading with his parents. She never wanted to create this distance between Sumit and his family. She understands how important family is to him. But she also knows how much pain their rejection has caused. In that moment, everything feels fragile. The future of their relationship hangs in the balance. Sumit's parents listen to him, but their faces reveal very little. They have heard similar arguments before. They have struggled with this reality for years. The conflict between tradition and personal choice is not easy to solve overnight. And yet, seeing their son break down in front of them changes the energy in the room. This is no longer just an argument. It is a son begging for understanding. A man asking his parents to see his happiness instead of only the social pressure surrounding it. The emotional weight of the moment becomes impossible to ignore. Sumit's voice softens as he speaks again. This time he is not arguing. He is simply asking his parents to try. Asking them to give Jenny a chance. Asking them to accept that his heart has already made its decision. Jenny wipes away quiet tears as she watches the moment unfold. She knows this conversation may shape the rest of their lives. If his parents refuse again, the distance between them may grow even deeper. But if they open their hearts even slightly, everything could change. For the first time in a long while, the room falls silent again. No shouting. No accusations. Just the quiet aftermath of a painful truth finally spoken out loud. And in that silence, one question hangs in the air. Will Sumit's parents finally accept Jenny, or will their love story continue to face the same heartbreaking resistance that has followed them for years? The answer to that question may determine whether Sumit and Jenny's fight for love will finally find peace, or if the battle is far from over. Imagine a moment where everything feels uncertain, where love, family, and tradition collide in a way that no one can easily resolve. After Sumit's emotional plea, the room falls into a deep and uncomfortable silence. No one immediately speaks. The words he just said still echo in the air. His parents sit quietly, their expressions serious, while Jenny watches nervously from the side. For years, this relationship has been surrounded by arguments and emotional confrontations, but this moment feels different. This time Sumit has opened his heart completely. He has stopped trying to hide his emotions or soften the truth. He has made it clear that Jenny is not just someone he cares about. She is the person he has chosen to spend his life with. As the silence stretches on, Sumit begins to wonder if anything he said actually made a difference. He looks at his parents, hoping to see even the smallest sign of understanding. But their faces remain difficult to read. Jenny's heart races as she watches the situation unfold. She knows how important family is to Sumit. She knows that his parents' acceptance would mean everything to him. At the same time, she also knows that the cultural expectations surrounding their relationship are incredibly strong. In many families, tradition and reputation hold a powerful influence. Changing those beliefs can take years, sometimes even generations. Finally, Sumit's father clears his throat and begins to speak. His voice is calm but firm. He explains that their concerns were never about trying to control their son's life. In his mind, everything they said came from a place of worry. He explains that when parents raise a child, they naturally imagine a future for them. They imagine stability, respect in society, and a life that follows familiar traditions. For him, Sumit's relationship with Jenny has always felt like a sudden departure from everything they expected. The age difference between Sumit and Jenny has been one of the biggest obstacles for them to accept. They worry about what people in their community will say. They worry about the long-term future of the relationship. They worry about how society might judge their family. While these concerns may seem harsh, they come from years of cultural expectations that shape the way many families think about relationships and marriage. Sumit listens carefully as his father speaks. Instead of interrupting, he allows his parents to explain their feelings completely. Over the years he has realized that shouting and arguing never brought them closer to understanding. This time he wants to try something different. Patience. After his father finishes speaking, Sumit gently responds. He explains that he understands why they feel the way they do. He understands the pressure that comes from relatives, neighbors, and social expectations. But he also tells them that happiness cannot be built entirely on other people's opinions. Life, he says, should be lived with honesty and love. Jenny finally finds the courage to speak as well. Her voice is soft but sincere. She tells Sumit's parents that she never wanted to create a division between them and their son. She respects their role in Sumit's life and understands how painful this situation must be for them. She admits that she knows their relationship looks unusual from the outside. But she also tells them something very important. Her love for Sumit is real and has never been a joke or a temporary adventure. She reminds them that leaving her life behind and moving to another country was not an easy choice. She left behind her comfort, her friends, and everything familiar because she believed in the future she and Sumit could build together. Hearing her speak so honestly makes the room feel even more emotional. Sumit's parents exchange a quiet glance. For years they have seen Jenny mostly as a problem, as the person who disrupted the life they imagined for their son. But listening to her explain her feelings adds a different perspective to the story. Suddenly, she does not seem like an outsider trying to take their son away. She looks like someone who simply loves him deeply. Even so, acceptance is not something that happens instantly. Cultural beliefs are powerful, and changing them can take time. Sumit can sense that his parents are still struggling with the idea. But he also notices something small that gives him hope. For the first time in a long while, they are listening without immediately rejecting the conversation. That small shift gives Sumit the courage to keep talking. He explains that he is not asking them to change everything overnight. He is not asking them to forget their traditions or abandon their beliefs. All he is asking for is a chance. A chance for Jenny to prove that she genuinely cares about their family. A chance for them to see the happiness that the two of them share. Jenny nods quietly beside him, her eyes filled with emotion. She knows that this moment could shape their future in ways they cannot yet predict. If his parents refuse again, the distance between them may grow even deeper. But if they allow even a small opening in their hearts, it could change everything. Sumit's mother finally speaks after a long pause. Her voice carries both concern and confusion. She explains that she has always dreamed of seeing her son live a peaceful and respected life. She worries that the constant attention and criticism surrounding his relationship might make that difficult. But she also admits that seeing him so emotional today makes her realize how deeply he feels about Jenny. For a moment, no one speaks again. The emotional weight of the conversation fills the room. This is no longer just a disagreement between parents and their son. It is a family trying to understand each other after years of conflict and misunderstanding. Sumit looks at his parents and gently tells them that he never wanted to hurt them. He never wanted to make them feel embarrassed or disappointed. But he also cannot ignore his heart. Jenny is the person who stood beside him during the most difficult moments of his life. Walking away from her would not bring happiness. It would only create more pain. As the conversation slowly continues, something begins to change in the atmosphere. The anger that once dominated their discussions has softened slightly. It has not disappeared completely, but it has been replaced by a fragile attempt to understand each other. Whether that fragile understanding will grow into acceptance remains uncertain. But for the first time in a long while, the door to possibility is slightly open. And for Sumit and Jenny, even the smallest step toward acceptance feels like a victory after years of fighting for their love. Imagine standing at the edge of a moment that could finally change everything after years of conflict and emotional battles. The room still carries the heavy silence that followed the last words spoken. Sumit can feel his heart beating faster as he waits to see how his parents will respond. For him, this is not just another conversation. This is a moment that could shape the future of his entire life. Jenny sits quietly beside him, trying to stay calm even though the tension in the room is almost unbearable. She has been through many difficult conversations with Sumit's parents before, but this time something feels different. The anger that once filled these moments seems to have softened slightly. Instead, there is confusion, hesitation, and a sense that everyone in the room is trying to understand what the right path forward might be. Sumit's parents look at each other again before his mother finally speaks. Her voice carries a mixture of emotion and concern. She explains that the entire situation has been very difficult for them as parents. From their perspective, they always wanted what they believed was best for their son. They imagined him living a life that followed tradition and cultural expectations. They believed that such a path would protect him from criticism and create stability for the future. But seeing Sumit become so emotional today forces them to confront a reality they have been avoiding. Their son is no longer a young boy who simply follows every decision they make. He is an adult who has built his own life and chosen his own partner. Accepting that reality is not easy, especially when it challenges long-held beliefs about how life should unfold. Sumit listens carefully to every word his mother says. Instead of interrupting, he nods quietly, showing that he understands her concerns. Over time he has realized that anger only pushes people further apart. What he wants now is not another fight. What he wants is understanding. He gently tells his parents that he appreciates everything they have done for him throughout his life. He acknowledges the sacrifices they made while raising him and guiding him into adulthood. But he also reminds them that every person eventually reaches a point where they must choose their own happiness. Jenny watches the conversation unfold with a mixture of hope and anxiety. She has always known that winning the approval of Sumit's parents would be one of the hardest challenges of their relationship. At times she wondered if it would ever happen at all. But seeing them listen instead of immediately rejecting the conversation gives her a small spark of hope. She decides to speak again, carefully choosing her words so they come from a place of respect rather than pressure. Jenny explains that she understands how unusual their relationship may appear from the outside. She knows the age difference and cultural differences make it difficult for many people to understand their connection. But she also explains that love does not always follow the rules society expects. Sometimes it simply appears in unexpected places and changes two people's lives forever. She tells them that she never wanted to replace their role in Sumit's life. She does not want to take him away from his family or create distance between them. What she truly hopes for is the chance to become part of that family rather than being seen as someone standing outside it. Hearing these words creates another long moment of silence in the room. Sumit's father slowly leans back in his chair, thinking deeply about everything that has been said. For years he has viewed the relationship as a mistake that would eventually fade away. But after watching his son fight so hard and hearing Jenny speak so sincerely, the situation begins to look different. He admits that one of the hardest parts of the situation has been the pressure from society. In their community, people often judge quickly and speak freely about other families' decisions. The fear of being criticized or losing respect in society has weighed heavily on them. But he also admits something else. Seeing his son break down emotionally earlier made him realize just how serious this relationship truly is. This is not something temporary. This is something his son is willing to defend with his whole heart. Sumit quietly thanks his father for being honest about his feelings. He knows this conversation is not easy for anyone involved. Every person in the room is facing a conflict between their beliefs and their emotions. The future of the relationship now depends on whether they can find a middle ground where respect and understanding can exist together. Jenny reaches for Sumit's hand as they wait for the conversation to continue. The gesture is small but meaningful. It shows that no matter how uncertain things feel, they are still standing together. For a moment, the room feels less like a battlefield and more like a family trying to rebuild trust after years of misunderstanding. Sumit's mother slowly speaks again. Her voice is softer now than it was earlier. She explains that even though she still has concerns, she can see how deeply her son cares about Jenny. Ignoring that truth would only create more pain for everyone involved. She says that acceptance may not happen overnight, but perhaps there can be a beginning. Those words surprise everyone in the room. It is not a complete approval, but it is the first sign of openness they have heard in a very long time. Sumit feels a wave of relief wash over him. After years of arguments and rejection, even the smallest step toward acceptance feels like a victory. He promises his parents that he and Jenny will do everything they can to build a stable and respectful life together. He promises that their relationship will not bring shame to the family. Instead, he hopes it will eventually become something the entire family can support. Jenny thanks them for being willing to listen and consider their feelings. She understands that trust must be built slowly and with patience. But the possibility of moving forward together gives her hope for the future. As the conversation slowly comes to an end, no one claims that all the problems have been solved. There are still questions, still uncertainties, and still cultural barriers that cannot disappear overnight. But something important has changed. The door that once seemed completely closed now appears slightly open. And for Sumit and Jenny, that small opening might be the beginning of a future where love and family no longer stand on opposite sides of the same battle. Imagine finally seeing a small light at the end of a long tunnel after years of struggle, arguments, and heartbreak. That is exactly how Sumit feels as the conversation with his parents slowly reaches a turning point. The tension in the room has not disappeared completely, but something important has shifted. For the first time in a very long time, the discussion is no longer filled with rejection. Instead, it is filled with cautious curiosity about what the future might look like. Sumit can hardly believe the change in atmosphere. For years, every conversation about Jenny ended the same way. Frustration, anger, and a firm refusal from his parents. But today feels different. Today they listened. They asked questions. And most importantly, they did not completely shut the door on the possibility of accepting Jenny. Jenny sits quietly beside Sumit, trying to process everything that just happened. She has spent years feeling like an outsider in this family situation, someone who unintentionally caused conflict between a son and his parents. Hearing even a small hint that things might improve makes her feel both relieved and emotional at the same time. Sumit's parents continue speaking carefully, choosing their words with more thought than before. His father explains that change takes time. Beliefs that have existed for decades cannot disappear in a single conversation. In many traditional families, the expectations for marriage and relationships are deeply rooted in culture and social values. Breaking away from those expectations can feel frightening and uncomfortable. But he also admits that forcing their son to abandon the woman he loves has not brought happiness to anyone involved. Instead, it has created years of tension and distance within the family. Sumit nods as he listens. He understands that this moment is fragile. Pushing too hard or demanding immediate acceptance could easily bring the conversation back to conflict. Instead, he focuses on showing patience and gratitude for the progress that has already been made. He tells his parents that he never expected them to suddenly change all their beliefs overnight. All he ever wanted was the chance for them to see Jenny as a person rather than just a problem. Jenny speaks again, her voice calm but sincere. She thanks them for being willing to have this conversation. She explains that she respects their culture and understands why the situation has been so difficult for them. She also promises that she will always treat their son with love and respect. Her goal is not to divide the family but to become a positive part of it. Hearing her words seems to soften the atmosphere even more. Sumit's mother looks at Jenny for a long moment before responding. She admits that she still has concerns, but she can no longer ignore.